3B cut out for some reason. I don't know why. Here's where we are. The sound of her voice made him fully awake. My father, my mother, he whispered. Kino's mother took his hand. I will be your mother now, dear Jaya, she said. I will be your father, Kino's father said. I am your brother now, Jaya, Kino faltered. Oh, Jaya will live with us, Setsu said joyfully. Then Jaya understood. He got up from the bed and walked to the door that stood open to the sky and the sea. He looked down the hillside to the beach where the fishing village had stood. There was only beach, and all that remained of the 20 and more houses were a few foundation posts and some big stones. The gentle little waves of the ocean were playfully carrying the light timber that had made the houses and throwing it on the sands and snatching it away again. The family had followed Jaya, and now they stood about him. Kino did not know what to say, for his heart ached for his friend brother. Kino's mother was wiping her eyes, and even little Setsu looked sad. She took Jaya's hand and stroked it. Jaya, I will give you my pet duck, she said. But Jaya could not speak. He kept on looking at the ocean. Jaya, your rice broth is growing cold, Kino's father said. We ought all to eat something, Kino's mother said. I have a fine chicken for dinner. I am hungry, Setsu cried. Come, my son, Kino's father said to Jaya. They persuaded him gently, gathering around him, and they entered the house again. In the pleasant, cozy room, they all sat down about the table. Jaya sat with the others. He was awake. He could hear the voices of Kino's family, and he knew that Kino sat beside him. But inside, he still felt asleep. He was very tired, so tired that he did not want to speak. He knew that he would never see his father and mother any more, or his brother, or the neighbors and friends of the village. He tried not to think about them or to imagine their quiet bodies floating under the swelling waves. Eat, Jaya, Kino whispered. The chicken is good. Jaya's bowl was before him, untouched. He was not hungry, but when Kino begged him, he took up his porcelain spoon and drank a little of the soup. It was hot and good, and he smelled its fragrance in his nostrils. He drank more, and then he took up his chopsticks and ate some of the meat and rice. His mind was still unable to think, but his body was young and strong and glad of the food. When they had all finished, Kino said, Shall we go up the hillside, Jaya? But Jaya shook his head. I want to go to sleep again, he said. Kino's father understood. Sleep is good for you, he said, and he led Jaya to his bed, and when Jaya had laid himself down, he covered him with the quilt and shut the sliding panels. Jaya is not ready yet to live, he told Kino. We must wait. The body began to heal first, and Kino's father, watching Jaya tenderly, knew that the body would heal the mind and the soul. Life is stronger than death, he told Kino again and again. But each day Jaya was still tired. He did not want to think or to remember. He only wanted to sleep. He woke to eat and then to sleep. And when Kino's mother saw this, she led him to the bedroom. And Jaya sank each time into the soft mattress spread on the floor in the quiet, clean room. He fell asleep almost at once, and Kino's mother covered him and went away. All through these days, Kino did not feel like playing. He worked hard beside his father in the fields. They did not talk much, and neither of them wanted to look at the sea. It was enough to look at the earth, dark and rich beneath their feet. One evening, Kino climbed the hill behind the farm and looked toward the volcano. The heavy cloud of smoke had long ago gone away, and the sky was always clear now. He felt happier to know that the volcano was no longer angry, and he went down again to the house. On the threshold, his father was smoking his usual evening pipe. In the house, his mother was giving Setsu her evening bath. "Is Jaya asleep already?" Kino asked his father. "Yes, and it is a good thing for him," his father replied. "Sleep will strengthen him, and when he wakes, he will be able to think and remember." "But should he remember such sorrows?" Kino asked. Yes, his father replied. "Only when he dares to remember his parents will he be happy again." They sat together, father and son, and Kino asked still another question. "Father, are we not very unfortunate people to live in Japan?" "Why do you think so?" his father asked in reply. "Because the volcano is behind our house and the ocean is in front. And when they work together for evil to make the earthquake and the big wave, then we are helpless. Always many of us are lost. To live in the midst of danger is to know how good life is," his father replied. "But if we are lost in the danger," Kino asked anxiously. "To live in the presence of death makes us brave and strong," Kino's father replied. "This is why our people never fear death. We see it too often and we do not fear it. To die a little later or a little sooner does not matter. But to live bravely, to love life, to see how beautiful the trees and the mountains, yes, and even the sea, to enjoy work because it produces food for life. In these things, we Japanese are a fortunate people. We love life because we live in danger. We do not fear death because we understand that life and death are necessary to each other." "What is death?" Kino asked. "Death is the great gateway," Kino's father said. His face was not at all sad. Instead, it was quiet and happy. "The gateway where?" Kino asked again. Kino's father smiled. Can you remember when you were born?" Kino shook his head. "I was too small." Kino's father laughed. "Ha! I remember very well. Oh, how hard you thought it was to be born. You cried and you screamed." "Didn't I want to be born?" Kino asked. This was very interesting to him. You did not," his father told him, smiling. "You wanted to stay just where you were in the warm, dark house of the unborn. But the time came to be born, and the gate of life opened." "Did I know it was the gate of life?" Kino asked. You did not know anything about it, and so you were afraid of it," his father replied. "But see how foolish you were. Here we were waiting for you. Your parents already loving you and eager to welcome you, and you have been very happy, haven't you?" "Until the big wave came," Kino replied. "Now I am afraid again because of the death that the big wave brought." "You are only afraid because you do not know anything about death," his father replied. "But someday you will wonder why you were afraid, even as today you wonder why you feared to be born." While they were talking, the dusk had deepened, and now coming up the mountainside, they saw a flickering light. The fireflies had come out, but this light was steadily climbing the pathway toward their house. "I wonder who comes," Kino exclaimed. "A visitor," his father replied. "But who can it be?" In a few minutes, they saw the visitor was Old Gentleman, coming from the castle. His manservant carried the lantern, but Old Gentleman walked behind him very sturdily with the help of a long staff. They heard old gentleman's voice in the dusk. "Is this the house of the Uchiyama, the farmer?" Old gentleman asked. "It is," his servant replied, "and the farmer sits there at his door with his son." At this, Kino's father stood up, and so did Kino. "Please, honored sir," Kino's father said, "what can I do for you?" Old gentleman came forward. "Do you have a lad here by the name of Jaya?" "He lies sleeping inside my house," Kino's father said. "I wish to see him," old gentleman said. Anyone could see that this old gentleman was one who expected to be obeyed, but Kino's father only smiled. "Sir, the lad is asleep, and I cannot wake him. He suffered the loss of his whole family when the big wave came. Now sleep heals him." "I will not wake him," old gentleman said. "I only want to see him." So Kino's father led old gentleman tiptoe into the room where Jaya slept, and Kino went too. The servant held the light shaded by his hand so it would not fall on Jaya's closed eyes. Old gentleman looked down on the sleeping boy. Jaya was very beautiful, even though so pale and weary. He was tall for his age, and his body was strong, and his face showed intelligence as well as beauty. Old gentleman gazed at him and then motioned to the servant to lead him away. They went again to the dooryard, and there old gentleman turned to Kino's father. "It is my habit when the big wave comes to care for those who are orphaned. 3 times the wave has come, and 3 times I have searched out the orphans and the widows, and I have fed them and sheltered them. But I have heard of this boy Jaya, and I wish to do more for him. If he is as good as he is handsome, I will make him my own son." "But Jaya is ours," Kino cried. "Hush," his father cried. "We are only poor people. If old gentleman wants Jaya, we cannot say we will not give him up." "Exactly," old gentleman said. "I will educate him and give him fine clothes and send him to a good school, and he may become a great man and an honor to our whole province and even to the nation." "But if he lives in the castle, we can't play together anymore," Kino said. We must think of Jaya's good," Kino's father said. Then he turned to old gentleman. "Sir, it is very kind of you to propose this for Jaya. I had planned to take him for my own son, now that he has lost his birth parents. But I am only a poor farmer, and I cannot pretend that my house is as good as yours, or that I can afford to send Jaya to a fine school. Tomorrow, when he wakes, I will tell him of your kind offer. He will decide." Excuse me. Excuse. "Very well," old gentleman said. "But let him come and tell me himself so that I will know how he feels." "Certainly," Kino's father replied proudly. "Jaya will speak for himself. Let's leave it here."